I think we're going to see some impressive moves soon. The spring has been coiled for a very long time. Recent months, it seems to be heating up more so than before, possibly because of Bitcoin kind of stabilizing, if you will, or just increased institutional acceptance of Bitcoin. So we see the ETFs gobbling up more Bitcoin. So these seem to be indicating that Bitcoin is here to stay.
After years of mounting pressure, Bitcoin's value is primed for a significant surge. Soon, the only ways to acquire Bitcoin may be by earning it or exchanging your time, so take action before it's too late. That's the latest insight from SAMSON MOW, CEO of January 3rd and a prominent Bitcoin advocate. In a recent interview, Mo shared bullish perspectives on Bitcoin's inevitable rise and adoption. Governments are starting to embrace it, major corporations are buying in, and everyday people are recognizing its profound impact on freedom and financial security. Bitcoin is more than just a price, it's a revolutionary tool that empowers individuals to take control of their money and future. Mo emphasizes that Bitcoin adoption isn't a distant possibility, it's happening right now and gaining momentum. Countries like El Salvador are already leveraging Bitcoin to transform their economies, and step by step, it's becoming an integral part of the global financial system. This unstoppable momentum is reshaping the world of finance. Stay tuned until the end of the video as SAMSON MOW reveals how Bitcoin is on track to become a currency everyone can use.
Hi guys, hope to see you guys at Dubai Token 2049. We have exclusive 10% off the limited super early bird tickets. Click the link below. This pass will grant you access to speaking sessions, networking app, exhibition hall, daily networking drinks, and also included breakfast, lunch, and coffee breaks, all included the package. I love to see everyone there. Peace out.
Countries are interested in getting ahead or getting out of debt, say with the IMF or World Bank. So they're looking at Bitcoin as a tool to escape that impoverishment that's being forced upon them. So it varies, but generally there's a lot of interest in Bitcoin, especially these days. The interesting thing is a lot of countries or politicians, they look towards the US for guidance. And we saw this with the ETF. So Hong Kong and Australia, they wanted to wait until the US approved the ETFs and then they approved theirs. But I think it's going to be the same situation in terms of larger scale Bitcoin adoption at the nation state level. They're going to wait and see what Trump does. And it is very meaningful to have multiple candidates in the race that have talked about Bitcoin and have talked about setting up that strategic Bitcoin reserve. It's somewhere in the order of probably 1 million to 4 million coins. And that's very ambitious. And I think if Trump wins, he'll likely move ahead and implement that because Trump likes to do to fulfill his campaign promises. It may not be to the full scope, but he likes to have said, I did that thing that I promised. So if he creates a strategic Bitcoin reserve of even 250,000, that's a big step. And all those other countries that are watching the US will definitely take that as a signal that they should go ahead and move on their Bitcoin strategy. But there's a danger there too, because the first mover always has the biggest advantage. So if you look at the ETFs again as an example, the US has almost 1 million Bitcoin in their ETFs. And then Hong Kong, which launched second, has 10,000 some odd Bitcoin, and Australia has 100 something. So you can see, if you wait for the US to make the first move in terms of setting up a Bitcoin strategic reserve, you may not have a lot of Bitcoin down the road. And we do see that competition heating up between all these different countries and entities accumulating. So you have, in addition to the ETFs in the US, you have companies like MicroStrategy, Tether, which are accumulating massive amounts of Bitcoin, and other countries mining Bitcoin like Bhutan. So there's not a lot of Bitcoin left. And I think perhaps most governments don't fully understand that it's a limited supply, because in the fiat world, it's all unlimited. You can print as much as you want. But with Bitcoin, there's definitely a point at which you cannot compete it and get a lot of Bitcoin. Like, how hard is it going to be to get 250,000 Bitcoin for the next MicroStrategy? Almost impossible. People are easily distracted by their own problems. Every country has their own social, economic things to deal with, but it's kind of our mission to tell them, hey, these are the different things happening around the world, and it's time to get prepared. And the question is, which place in line do you want to be? Do you want to be first, second, or 20th? So it's bringing these topics up and presenting them and really getting their eyes open to the state of the world. That is important, I think. And we'll see which ones go first, but there's definitely a first mover advantage, and it could be that second and third place never catch up to number one. It's a tale as old as time, right? The loan sharks don't like it when you make their business redundant. And that's really what Bitcoin does. Like, these groups can only lend out money that can be printed easily, right? Creating the SDR, does not exist. And unfortunately, it still kind of can be used as a bargaining chip by giving cheap money to these countries. But Bitcoin makes it so that you don't need that anymore. You can actually take a slow, steady, sustainable path to growth by embracing hard money and utilizing energy to mine Bitcoin. So the whole formula for money has changed. Money is now energy and information because Bitcoin is energy information. So you can mine Bitcoin using geothermal or hydro or whatever you have that previously you could not utilize, right? With oil, it's easy. You put it into a bucket or a barrel and you ship it. But with geothermal, what's the incentive? Unless you want to create some energy intensive industry that uses it on site, there's not much you can do. But Bitcoin changes that. And I think it is going to have a massive effect as countries discover this, that, hey, we're actually a rich country, right? And a lot of the countries that have massive geothermal energy reserves are quite poor relatively. So this whole equation is changing the world, and we'll see that playing out to further make these things, these organizations like the IMF and the World Bank, redundant. Money is a very potent form of control. So he who controls the money controls the people. You can incentivize people to do things like build roads. Like, if you can print money, you can make them build roads or go fight in wars or do a number of things. And it's also a way to control other countries too. So if they're dependent on your money, not just in Latin America, but in Africa with the CFA franc, you can extract resources. You can extract human resources or physical resources or whatever you want, as long as you control the money. So this is why Bitcoin is so disruptive and so powerful, because it breaks that ability for people to control others. Well, so long as you're holding Bitcoin in your own self-custody and you have your own keys. But you get the idea. It really transforms the entire landscape of the world. And the best part is that it is inevitable. So even if we didn't do anything, this will come to pass. A Bitcoin standard will come to pass because there is no alternative. There's no way a government can save the fiat currency. It means that you'd have to have massive amounts of restraint and discipline to not print, and we know that's not possible.
El Salvador has taken another bold step by purchasing more Bitcoin. Since adopting Bitcoin as legal tender in 2021, the country has been at the forefront of demonstrating how Bitcoin can transform economies. This latest investment underscores their commitment to making Bitcoin a central part of their future. President Nayib Bukele has ambitious plans for Bitcoin, with initiatives like Bitcoin City and using Bitcoin to fund major infrastructure projects already underway. By continuing to invest, El Salvador is betting on Bitcoin's value appreciating over time, further reducing the country's reliance on traditional financial systems. What are your thoughts on these developments? Share them in the comments. Now, let's return to SAMSON MOW as he delves deeper into this topic.
It actually gets to the point where it's inevitable like this.
Well, it has to do with Bitcoin increasing in value, right? So as Bitcoin number goes up, then it gets harder and harder to have people accept the fiat, because it's more apparent that when Bitcoin is at 1 million or $5 million a coin, do people still want to get paid in pesos or Canadian dollars or yen? I don't think so, right? Like, it's difficult to see it now, although as Bitcoiners we see it, going from 0 to 66K or 67, whatever we're at now, it kind of shows you like this thing is rapidly increasing and there's no stopping it. And for other people, I think you have to see it. They'll probably need to see it at 250,000 and higher before that realization dawns on them, because you cannot look at this asset class that's gone from 0 to 250,000 in 20 years and still say, well, it's just a fad, and the fiat currency that's dropped another 100% in value and purchasing power is going to somehow come back, right? There's a point of no coming back. And I think this is a problem that most of the models for Bitcoin price appreciation miss out on, which is they're projecting for decades. I think it's more like 5 to 10 years, if that. And at some point, you just stop accepting fiat, because why would you? Like, when do you stop accepting the German Papier mark, right? You stop at some point. Either you have to reset or use something else, but there is a termination point for fiat currencies. So that is where that goes. But to your other question is, why should we, educate governments and politicians on Bitcoin? I think it has to do that we can have better policy come out here to enshrine the rights of Bitcoiners and private property, ownership of property, as we move through this Bitcoin adoption cycle. Because one thing we've learned in past years is that the laws and your rights don't really matter anymore, right? If you take Canada as an example, just a protest induced the government to implement emergency measures, the Emergency Act, which is martial law, right? And well, what rights do you have under martial law? Not many. So anything can be used to attack the population. And the property rights seem to be just an afterthought at that point. But maybe as we work with countries to implement these Bitcoin strategies, we can augment the laws that protect people and protect your Bitcoin. Because there's one thing that's interesting right now, which is, a government can say you have Bitcoin. Maybe they think you did. Maybe you lost it, right? There's the boating accident joke, but what if you really did lose it or was stolen from you, but the government still says you have it and they lock you in a jail or throw you in the gulag? What recourse do you have? Because it's difficult to prove you don't have something. So there's a lot of work that has to be done to better protect Bitcoiners and people in general, because the current laws are not going to cut it. All of these rules and regulations and laws are designed for a system that is self-contained, right? It's designed for equities. Do you have, I don't know, pick a stock, Microsoft stock. Yeah, you do, because the brokerage says you have it. You obviously have it. You can't lose Microsoft stock, right? But with bearer assets coming back, and I think that's another battle we'll be fighting, but bearer assets means you can lose something, right? If you have bearer certificates, you can lose a bearer certificate, right? You can lose Bitcoin, and there's no protection to prevent the state from coming after you saying, hey, you owe me money because you have or had this thing. So there's a lot of things that we have to improve on and to work to optimizing for a world that's living on a Bitcoin standard. And it's largely to empower the individual and make sure that, your rights as a sovereign individual are respected and enshrined. There's no threat to Bitcoin itself, but there is a threat to Bitcoiners and people that have Bitcoin. So that is what I think we need to work towards improving the rights of individuals. The interesting thing is all of laws and all these things can be changed based on your interpretation of it, right? Like recently I'm seeing, I think Elon Musk posted something like, it's some newspaper that says the free speech is dangerous, right? So even though it's protected in the First Amendment, will it continue to be protected if enough people in control deem it to be a danger to society? Who knows? But you can definitely see everything's open to interpretation. Like just in Canada, who's the terrorist? The protesters are terrorists, right? So what we want is Bitcoiners in the government. So you have to start from somewhere. Either a Bitcoiner's got to go run for office, or you meet the people in charge right now and you teach them about Bitcoin. Because the only protection against this dystopian world is that everyone becomes a Bitcoiner. It doesn't seem right that we've been in consolidation for such a long time frame. And if you look at Bitcoin adjusted for inflation, we haven't really had an all-time high, even though we reached 74, right? That's inflation adjusted for inflation. We haven't hit an all-time high yet. But at the same time, you see all the increasing debt in the US. Just let's look at the US, right? National debt is 35 some odd trillion now. Interest to service the debt is surpassed 1 trillion. So how sustainable is that? There should be a direct correlation between the instability and weakness of fiat and the strength of Bitcoin. And we're not seeing it yet. Gold is rallying, Bitcoin is not rallying. So I tend to believe that there is paper Bitcoin being saturated into the market. And, I think Willy Woo and Adam Back had a discussion about, is it through derivatives or is it through ETFs? And Adam seems to think not. But there's more than one way to saturate the market with paper Bitcoin. You can have a FTX style naked selling, like selling Bitcoin that you don't even have to suppress the price. And while yes, you have to have enough Bitcoin to facilitate withdrawals, you can also print other things out of thin air if you have a malevolent actor in this space. Like maybe it's altcoins, right? And you print the altcoins to buy Bitcoin, and you kind of are selling Bitcoin that does not exist, but you have enough Bitcoin coming in to meet demands, right? And that would explain kind of why we're stagnant at the 60-ish range, right? Because they're keeping it down, but they can't push it down too much because they still need to buy back to fulfill withdrawals, right? That's my theory. But like, if you ask me, how would I suppress the market? That was how I would do it. I think we're going to see some impressive moves soon. The spring has been coiled for a very long time.
SAMSON MOW envisions Bitcoin as the foundation of the future. As more people and countries recognize its advantages, adoption will continue to expand. Businesses will turn to Bitcoin to safeguard their wealth, individuals will use it to escape inflation and inequitable financial systems, and communities will build stronger economies around it. MOW emphasizes that understanding this shift early is crucial. Those who educate themselves about Bitcoin now will gain a significant advantage, positioning themselves to thrive as the world transitions to this new global financial system. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these 2 awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.